Most evenings, I find myself in the same leather chair in my living room by the back window, looking out at the woods behind the house. Today, they're covered with snow. And I reach for my iPad like it's a small kind of safety net. What surprises me is I'm not unhappy, I'm calm, which is what scares me a little because sometimes the calm feels less like rest and more like withdrawal. And I hate admitting this, but sometimes when an invitation comes in at dinner, a get together, something nice, well, there's a part of me that quietly hopes that it gets canceled. Kind of like I'm getting used to not reaching out. And shrinking doesn't hurt at first. It just makes your life a little smaller. Because I can't tell if this is just peace or am I just shrinking? Most evening it's the same routine. I sit down in that chair and I look outside for a few minutes, and eventually the iPad ends up in my hands. When I bought the iPad a few years ago, I didn't think to myself, "Oh, this thing is going to be really important in my retirement." It just kind of happened. And the longer I've been retired, the more I've noticed how automatic it's become. Like my hand reaches for it before I've even decided I need it. And the part that surprises me is this: it's not just the screen, it's what it's doing for me when the world feels too loud and my life feels too quiet. When I first retired, when I first stopped working, I thought the big adjustments would be about time, schedules, purpose, figuring out what to do with my days. I didn't expect the smaller things, the quiet ones, to end up carrying so much weight. And to be honest, I didn't really notice it at first. I told myself I was just relaxing, just decompressing and enjoying a well earned calm. And maybe I am. But now I can start to see a pattern. Most evenings, there I am, same chair, same window, that little screen already open. And I can't help wondering if that says something about me. Because peace is a gift, but shrinking, it can feel an awful lot like peace if you don't look at it too closely. But I'm trying to look at it closely without panicking because I want the quiet, but I don't want to shrink. I don't want to vanish. So I use this iPad for plenty of practical things, of course. I message family on it, I read emails, respond to them. It could just as easily be an Android tablet, it doesn't really matter. I read a lot of books these days, history, novels, and all of it's on that screen. And when it comes to national news, I hardly ever watch it on TV anymore. I've learned that sitting through the national news every night costs me way more in aggravation than I'm willing to pay. So I read headlines and summaries on the iPad, read what looks interesting, skim over, or just skip the rest. That way I can stay informed what's going on in the country and in the world without feeling the weight of the world in my chest. And that wasn't a rule I made on purpose. It's just something I learned about myself. And then later in the evenings, if we're not watching a movie together, I'll often watch YouTube on the iPad. And if I'm honest, the things I watch are usually a little odd. There's a channel about a man who makes a living trimming cow hoofs. I don't know why that's interesting. It just is. I like to watch a channel about the family that has this large industrial pig farm and all the things they have to do. There's channels I watch about blacksmithing, woodworking, factory videos, how things are made. But I think the thing I like is nobody's arguing, nobody's trying to convince me of anything or sell me something. They're just doing their work. And there's something about that not only interests me, but it relaxes me. I usually have my earbuds in while I watch, mostly so my wife doesn't have to listen to pigs or a blacksmith hammer all evening. But she's usually right there with me in the room on her iPad reading her books. different screen, different screens, but the same room. And there's something about that setup that feels calmer than I ever expected. It feels like I've found a way to stay connected to the world without letting the world climb all over me. I do have a regular desktop computer. It's in my small office, this office. And that's where I do the heavier stuff, editing these videos, paying bills, answering longer emails. Occasionally I'll play a computer game. But this space in here, this feels like productivity. But when I'm sitting with my iPad, it feels different. The iPad lives out in the open in the living room where life is happening quietly around me, where my wife is. And what surprises me is how familiar that feels. Because you see, when we were first married, no kids, our evenings looked a lot like this, just without the screens. We'd sit in our living room with our books, so quiet you could hear a pin drop. We used to laugh at ourselves about how boring our life must look to an outsider. Two people sitting there reading, not saying hardly anything. But we weren't bored, not even close. We were just enjoying being in the same room without needing to fill the space with TV noise or mindless chatter. Just being there with each other. And now here we are 48 years later. It's a different house, but it's ended up being the same quiet evenings. Just the books are now on our iPads, not on paper. And I didn't expect that continuity to catch me the way it does. I didn't expect a piece of technology to remind me of who we've always been together. Somehow it isn't the new that gets me, it's the fact that the same quiet has held us all this time. So for a while, I wondered if leaning on things like this iPad meant I was shrinking, if needing quiet buffers, screens, earbuds, routines, if that meant I was pulling away from the world. But I'm not sure I really believe that. I think what I'm really doing is learning how to take the world in at a size that I can carry. Because what I'm reaching for in that chair by that window most evenings is not just an iPad, it's the permission to be quiet, the permission to choose calm over noise. It's permission to sit next to someone I love and not have to prove anything with words. And still, I keep coming back to that question because the calm can be real, but the withdrawal can be real too. And they can feel almost identical, even to me. I didn't expect these things to matter this much in retirement, but here I am. So tonight, I'll be in that leather chair by the window and I'll probably reach for the iPad again. I'll try to notice whether I feel more open or more closed. And if an invitation comes in, I'll pay attention to my first reaction because that's the line between resting and shrinking. So I guess when I finish this, I'm going to head over to the chair by the window, watch the snow a little bit, and enjoy the quiet. That feels like enough for tonight.